Yeah, so where do I start? I just put this together last night, so it's my first run through here. But there's this vision behind the foundation, and I think the community as a whole, in terms of like what does that roadmap look like to building like a real-time network, or maybe as a precursor to that, a real-time experience on Ethereum. And so today I'm going to walk through basically the why, what, and how do pre-confirmations kind of play into this initiative. So the why is because real-time is a requirement, right? Like we can, if the goal is to effectively kind of match the experience within the Web 2 world, how close can we get to that within the Web 3 world? And so, in that sense, it is a requirement. And well, because pre-confirmations unlock the real-time experience, and I'll go through that in a bit more detail. And so the problem that we're solving as a community and at ETH Gas is that, well, this is a 12-second block, and it's incredibly slow. It's frustrating for a number of reasons. And when you look ahead into the future with various initiatives, take for example Beam, we can, I'm not doing it, but the foundation is working towards like maybe a 2-second block time, and theoretically maybe this can even be like a 1-second block time. But again, it's just not enough, right? How do you provide that real-time experience? And so, ultimately, that's what we want to work towards. And so, block space, even if we can create like I guess a real-time experience, with limited block space, currently we can get, in the best case, maybe like 1,700 transactions through in a single block. But if it were real-time, and we were doing 1 million TPS, then after 0.0017 seconds, that block is full. And so, where does that leave us? And so the follow-on from that is, well, this is the entire conversation around L2s, in the sense that block space is, for all intents, it's kind of unlimited within the L2 environment. And so when you're able to combine a real-time experience with unlimited block space, then the network as a whole across L1 and L2, it's now able to kind of rival that centralized counterpart. And so the essential building blocks to this, well, basically the first one is, how do I set the stage for pre-confirmations just in general, right? And so most of you guys, or most validators or operators are running MEV-Boost, and the successor, really is commit boost. It basically provides you more choice and more flexibility to give the operator or validator more discretion over how that block space is sold. And so we address the low latency pre-confirmations, and on the right side is the L2 aspect. So the first two are really the latency. They address latency, and the last one addresses potentially unlimited block space. And so today, this is kind of the current process within PBS. You have users on the far left who send their transactions, many of them, through wallets, which invariably end up at multiple builders, maybe one builder or multiple builders. They then get passed on to some sets of relays, and then ultimately onto the validator, who chooses basically one block from the relay for proposal. And so this is what I call a spot auction. It basically happens on demand for every block. And so what we've done is we've said to the validators, well, hey, with commit boost and us, you can effectively sell that block space in advance. And so, actually I can use a laser here. You could sell that block space in advance, and so you register through our relay, through us, and then boom. Traders can buy that block space. And when we have that block, actually I'll show it on the next slide. When people have bought the block space, it eventually, you can do something with that. You can put your transactions in it. You can put other people's trades into that block space. And then once you've created that block, it then basically follows the standard PBS pipeline from the block builders, the relays, and then back to the validator or proposer. This is what our exchange looks like when it's kind of more fully operational. But effectively, this is a 2-epoch look-ahead window. And so with us as an intermediary on behalf of the validator, we are Off-chain, we're low latency. But what we can do is we can effectively sell that block space in real time. So this is the market for the entire block, if someone were to buy that. This is a market for just like slices of block space. So if I just want to do, I just need 21,000 gas just to do a transfer, or I just want like a Uniswap swap. I just need a couple 100,000. I can buy slices of gas, and this would be the marketplace for that. And so we give you an instant confirmation on that, and boom, you're guaranteed to be in that specific slot. So for people who buy the block, there's a few things you can do. Actually, I'm not sure if I have it on the next slide, but if a trader were to buy the block, you could sell it. You can just buy and sell. It's just like an empty barrel of gas. And this is in advance, of course. These blocks are going to roll down to now. So you could buy and sell. Secondly, you could build the block. If you're a trader, you could put all your transactions in there. You could take trades from the public mempool. Or maybe you have your own private mempool and you can build that block and it can then kind of propagate through. Or maybe you don't really have that much order flow. You're just like a trader. And so maybe you'll take the top of the block and the rest of the block, send it out for auction. You could give it to Titan to build the rest of the block. You could auction it out to a pool of builders, whatever, and that really maximizes the block for you. Or you could do nothing with the block if that's what you really wanted to do. And so where does yield come from in this context, right? As a validator, it's like, okay, this sounds good. Maybe I want to support like a real-time Ethereum. So that's one aspect of this. But I have to do work. I need to change over to commit boost. What is this ETH gas? How does it work? It requires work and effort. And so ultimately, it has to be worth your time. And so some background first. In the current environment, you'd have some set of builders who are receiving order flow from a variety of places. In this case, builder number 1, that order flow is worth 1 ETH, and builder number 2, it's worth 0.1 ETH. So, that's normal. There is kind of like different order flow for different builders. The builders then submit these blocks over to relays, right? For some reason in this case, they're sending it to relay 1, and that's fine. And so normally, the relay would take the proposer would take that 1 ETH block and propose it, and that's great. But what happens in reality is the relay says, hey, dude, that block doesn't need to be worth 1 ETH. It only needs to be worth 0.11. And so that revenue doesn't actually get passed on to the proposer. It actually goes back into the pipeline. And this is what happens when you have free will, choice, a limited number of players within the ecosystem, but this just happens from a practical perspective, and clearly that's not good. And so in half the blocks, you basically get paid less than 90% of that value. And so we're here to kind of augment this process, where instead of just 2 or 3 block builders kind of competing to build that block, actually anyone can buy it, right? You don't need to have your own order flow. The block is backed up by other builders who have order flow, but any trader, searcher, dozens and dozens of people, it can be much more fair, much more competitive, with all the revenue transferring completely over to the proposer. So that's the background. I guess more specifically, how does this increase yield for the validators? Well, people pay for user experience. As I said, a real-time experience, it gives you that confidence. How much are you going to pay more for that instant confirmation? It's debatable. You'll pay a sliver, perhaps. But separately, people pay for certainty. There's an entire industry called insurance, where everybody pays far greater than the expected value of the actual occurrence of that event. So the first one is basically just proposer commitments. The second is it unifies order flow. And so as the proposer delegates to ETH gas, and the order flow, it could come to us, it could come to the builder, but for anyone who wants to get a trade through, it has to flow through this pipeline. Okay, I need to move a little quickly here. Fair competition, I came to that. A fourth aspect is this multi-block angle, where if a trader can buy 2 or 3 consecutive blocks, it's worth almost like, it's a nonlinear amount relative to 2 independent blocks. So multi-block unlocks a lot more revenues. Finally, if we're providing this real-time experience on L1, it just opens up all these more trading opportunities between centralized and decentralized, L1 and L2. Whoops, once we get the Fabric initiative in place, again, you can trade in real time here versus any other network. It just opens up far more trading opportunities. This last one I think is the coolest. So if you sell that block space and it trades again and again and again and again, as an exchange, we get fees. And there's a reason why crypto as a whole is worth, the market cap's what, like $2 trillion or something? But Binance is worth, whatever. But Binance is the house. In this context, we pass back the majority of these fees back to you guys. And so it's the only way that a validator proposer can capture volatility as from an income source. So current status, we've been live on mainnet for about 6 weeks. First 4 weeks we're in testing. We have, we just started off very small. We had 2 weeks ago, we just asked a few more people to come on board. They gave us 1% of the network, but they power collectively 7 to 8%. Then in the coming weeks, we have another 7, 8 more operators coming on board with an intended 8 to 10%. Collectively, they power 22 to 26. There's some pools instructing various node operators to go ahead, and this is really starting to move things quickly, where collectively, all the node operators we've been talking to, they power around 62% of all the block space. And then finally, in terms of returns, well, today we're looking at around 6 to 8 basis points above MEV boost. But importantly, as we scale to, what's this example? Say 40% of the network, we should be looking at 40 basis points. It's almost a one-to-one, but not exact. Next steps, ask questions from myself, from the Lido kind of community. There's a framework in place, this proposer mechanisms in place. We have our perch proposal, but again, ask questions, engage. If this is of interest to you, then let's make it happen. Here's our GitHub repo as well, basically for commit boost and for our module. Thank you.